My ex-wife came back after 5 years of divorce, asking for a second chance after abandoning our kids for a new lover. For context, my ex-wife Angela, 36, and I, 37, met in our mid-20s. I was about 24 and we met while working at the same firm. We married after 2 years of dating, and we had 2 kids, who are now 9 and 7 years old. The second pregnancy was unexpected, and she was unhappy with it, but she did not terminate it, even though I assured her it was fine if she did. I didn't want to make her go through anything she didn't want. Following our first daughter, everything was still going well between us, and we were as in love as ever, but that changed following our second pregnancy. Angela became extremely angry and nasty, constantly picking on me or our eldest. I assumed it was just hormones and attempted to reconcile with this new version of her. We expected things to improve over time, but things deteriorated, and my daughter and I learned to tread carefully around her. Angela was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom, but I was taking care of everything. She had stopped her career due to personal ambition after our first child, and she handled all of the housekeeping and cared for our eldest while I worked. However, once she became pregnant with our second child, we had to employ a housekeeper since she said she was too fatigued to perform the housekeeping and care for the children. Despite the fact that it was outside of our budget, I agreed to hire help because I did not want to inconvenience her during her pregnancy. I figured she'd go back to managing the house and the kids when our second daughter was born. To clarify, I was not one of those men who did nothing around the house. Despite my exhaustion, I always tried to help out at home after work. After the birth of our younger daughter, I expected Angela to recuperate in a few months, but several months passed with little improvement. She stayed unpleasant and irritable, refusing to do any housework. Instead, she would spend the day at home watching television. She didn't play with the kids or take them outside. Instead, she paid our neighbor to take them to the park on occasion. I didn't mean to sound resentful, but I was. I was working long hours to provide for our family, and she refused to perform even the bare minimum at home. It was becoming increasingly expensive to continue paying for the housekeeper, who was responsible for all of the cooking, cleaning and other activities. I also had to pay for all of our other bills and save money for our daughter's future, which was becoming increasingly difficult because Angela refused to help in any way. After nearly 6 months since our younger daughter's birth, I recognized we couldn't keep on like this. I decided to speak to Angela. I expected it to be a difficult conversation, so I asked my parents to watch our girls for the day. When I sat Angela down, I told her that I understood she was fatigued from 2 pregnancies, but I needed her to help me out and collaborate with me. I stated that employing a housekeeper was becoming prohibitively expensive, and I needed her to uphold her promise to return to handling at least part of the domestic chores so that we could cut the cleaner's hours and save money. She immediately rejected the suggestion, claiming she was too busy babysitting the kids to do any cleaning. She advised me to start working more instead of creating excuses and blaming her for our financial position. I attempted to explain to her that I was already doing my best, but she needed to do hers as well if we were to have a successful marriage. I also stated how she wasn't really looking after the kids because they were sitting in front of the television with her for hours, something the housekeeper had casually remarked to me. This was a mistake. Angela lashed out, accusing me of spying on her through the housekeeper. She went on a tirade, saying she couldn't take being pushed around by me anymore and refused to be forced to do all the work while I did nothing but sit at a desk for a few hours each day. She blamed me for our financial issues, saying it was embarrassing that I had to beg her for help when I was supposed to be the man of the house. It was nonsensical, and she was grabbing for straws to make it appear that there was nothing wrong with her refusal to contribute. We got into a huge quarrel, in which she labeled me a loser for not being able to hire a maid, and I replied by calling her a lazy cow. I mentioned that our eldest daughter was terrified of mom and that she was failing as a mother and wife. That remark really hit her, and she pushed me hard. I lost my equilibrium and fell on the coffee table, shattering the glass and injuring myself. I had to be brought to the emergency room, and Angela apologized and cried the entire time. Fortunately, my injuries were slight, but I could have been gravely injured. After that, I no longer trusted Angela and informed her she needed to move out. I didn't trust her around the kids, knowing she'd lose her temper with them as well. I requested my parents to look after our girls for a time, and Angela protested for a week, swearing she would never let anything like that happen again. But I simply couldn't trust her anymore. I was about to file for divorce, but Angela begged me for another opportunity. By the end of the week, we had decided that she would move in with her parents and begin therapy. Only once a medical professional determined that she was fit would I contemplate allowing her to return to live with us. It was obvious that something was wrong with her because happy individuals do not behave in that manner, but she was eager to work on improving, so I agreed to give her a chance. I also didn't want my girls to grow up without their mother, so I decided not to file for divorce straight away and to give our marriage another chance. We were also receiving marriage counseling while living separately. However, it was all for naught because she eventually cheated on me. My parents had moved in with me to help with my girls, while Angela remained with her folks. We attended weekly marriage counseling sessions and things appeared to be improving for a while. I also communicated with her therapist, who informed me that she was suffering from postpartum depression but was recovering. One of her symptoms was rage, which she had never felt before, but it spiraled out of control after she shoved me. That was a wake-up call to both of us. This continued on for over a year, and at the 6-month point, I let her visit our girls under my supervision. I was relieved to see that she was gradually returning to her old self. It finally seemed like our position was improving and that we could make it work. But then she abruptly quit attending our counseling sessions, with no explanation. She also stopped responding to me, but I was confident that she was making progress because her therapist kept me informed. It didn't make sense to me, and I tried to talk to her for weeks, but she just ignored me and said she needed time alone. Finally, after nearly 3 months of avoiding me, I decided to pay her a visit at her parents' home. I hadn't done it previously because her parents disliked me and blamed me, believing I was the one who drove their daughter insane and caused her to act out. Angela had informed me that it would be best if I did not see her while she was living with them since it would only cause more drama, the last thing we wanted. But I broke the norm and went anyway, because she had been behaving aloof and skipping counseling sessions. Even when she did show up, she appeared uninterested, and I couldn't figure out why. When I tried to talk to her in person, over the phone, or by text, she continued saying everything was okay, but her behavior indicated that she was hiding something. When I arrived at her parents' place, I anticipated her to be there, but she wasn't. When I asked where she was, her parents said they couldn't tell me and slammed the door in my face. I got awful feelings about it. I decided to phone Angela while standing in front of their house, but she did not answer. After a few attempts, I became increasingly paranoid, so I snuck around the home, hoping to discover a way in. I went to the backyard, knowing her parents normally kept the kitchen door open. But I didn't have to go that far. I spotted Angela seated on a swing in the garden, but she wasn't alone. She was kissing a man I didn't recognize. The image of that moment is ingrained in my mind since it was the most heinous experience of my life. I still remember it today. When the guy noticed me, he instantly pulled back, and by the time Angela turned around, I had begun walking back to my car. She caught up to me and tried to stop me, but I didn't listen. I was shocked. She attempted to grasp me, but I shrugged her off and warned her not to touch me. I got into my car and headed home. Once there, I blocked her on all platforms to keep her from explaining. I asked my parents to help me get a lawyer and told them what I had just observed. I did not see or hear from Angela until we had to meet with the court-appointed mediator to finalize our divorce settlement. By that point, I had essentially become a robot, only functioning for the benefit of my girls while emotionally shutting down. I felt nothing, not even when I learned that Angela was terminating her parental rights. She had decided she no longer wanted to be with us and instead wanted to be with the man I had seen her with. Let's call him Sean. He was her childhood buddy, and despite growing apart after high school, they reconnected when she returned to live with her parents. Apparently, she had fallen in love with him, and her parents were supportive, which explains why they had permitted her to make out with him in their garden despite the fact that she was married with 2 children. They had always wanted her to end up with Sean and were relieved she was finally choosing her happiness, as if she had ever done anything else. The divorce was a lengthy procedure. Despite her infidelity, Angela wished to qualify for alimony. It took time, but my lawyer and I worked hard to ensure she didn't receive anything in the divorce, which was understandable given that I had been the one paying for everything while she did nothing but watch television at home. It has been 5 years since the divorce was finalized, and we were successful in ensuring she walked away with nothing. The divorce months were the most difficult for me, but I knew I couldn't give up because I needed to care for my girls. They had nobody but me. My parents were extremely supportive, and I will never be able to express how grateful I am to them for being there while I balanced work and parenting. Now, 5 years later, I'm grateful for my divorce. Back then, it seemed like the worst thing that could happen to me, but I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't made that decision. Life has been good to me since then, and I'm in a much better place in every manner. We've moved into a larger house, I'm paid more, and I don't have to spend money on anyone other than myself and my girls. My parents live nearby and visit frequently, and I have friends that adore me. My daughters are as joyful as they can be. That's all a guy needs, and I'm grateful to the universe that everything is going well now. Or at least, it was until Angela reappeared a few days ago. The kids were in school, and I was about to leave for work when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw her standing outside with a boy beside her. He couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old, and I knew immediately he was Angela's son. I was still trying to process her unexpected entrance when she began crying. She explained that she came there to apologize and make things right. She informed me she was finally ready to be a family again and give our marriage a second try. I couldn't believe she was back after all these years, and she wanted to give our marriage another shot, as if it were her choosing. I made up my mind in less than a second. I closed the door and turned her away. I didn't want to become involved in whatever it was, but first I told her that this was no longer her family. I'd quit being her husband the day she cheated on me with Sean. The divorce was simply a legal duty, and she had freely relinquished custody of her girls, so she no longer had the right to refer to us as her family. After that, I closed the door and instructed her to go since I did not want her anywhere near my property. I was so upset that I wanted to cuss her out, but I resisted because of the small guy. I could hear her screaming outside my door for a few minutes but ignored it. I departed for work once I was confident that everything was in order. I tried not to think about it because doing so would weaken my determination, which I couldn't afford. I almost forgot Angela had come to my house, but as soon as I got home from work, my parents called and demanded an explanation for why I had sent her away. They informed me that Angela had contacted them after I had shut the door on her, and she was upset. My parents stated that they had given her my new address and instructed her to come visit me because she was in the process of divorcing Sean and now had an opportunity to make things right with me. They stated Angela contacted them around a month ago and the reunion had been planned for quite some time. My parents believed it was time for me to think about my children because my daughters needed a mother, and no one was more qualified than Angela. So they thought she deserved another shot and instructed her where to locate me and what to say. I was enraged with them. It was not their place to forgive her or give her another chance without first asking if I was comfortable with it. It could have been much worse if the kids had been home. It was reckless of them to do anything like this. I told them off, but they refused to recognize their error. They reminded me that they had assisted me during my divorce by caring for the children, something they still do on occasion. They argued that while it was ultimately my decision, they had an equal right to determine what was best for the children, which I could not take away. I thought it was crazy that they believed that. At the end of the day, my daughters were mine and not theirs. While I respected them and will always be grateful for what they did during my divorce, it was not their place to reintroduce Angela into my life. We had a fight, and they informed me that I was the one who was acting selfishly by not giving Angela a second chance. They argued that they had done their due research and that she was a different woman who deserved to be a part of my girl's life. Even when I informed them that Angela had signed away her parental rights, they were angry that I believed they would ever endanger my girls or me. They accused me of wrecking their lives because I was too arrogant to acknowledge that my daughters needed their mother. It's been a few days, and I've been thinking about it a lot. I don't think I was wrong or selfish for not giving my ex-wife a second chance at motherhood. Update 1. About a week has passed since Angela arrived at my door with her son, and I recently learned the truth about her relationship with my parents. It's so upsetting that I don't know where to start, and I'm still trying to digest it myself. It's mind-boggling how they've all betrayed me without blinking an eye. Apparently, not only did my parents give her my new address, but they had been in communication with her all along. I had cut her out of my life after the divorce, but they hadn't because they thought she'd come around eventually. They didn't talk very often, maybe once a month, but it was enough to make me feel betrayed. Sean had made Angela sign up her rights after she was presented with divorce papers. He issued her an ultimatum: abandon her family and create a new life with him, or stay in contact with her children and battle for custody. However, battling for custody required leaving him behind. According to my parents, it was a difficult decision for her, but she ultimately chose Sean and created a new family with him over her current family. My parents told me that immediately after I filed for divorce, Angela called them and asked for their assistance in keeping in touch with her children covertly. She stated that both of us had backed her into a corner. She believed that if she battled for custody, she would be unable to see her children. I was fighting for full custody with supervised visiting rights, but Sean had told her to abandon her children completely. Even if she went up against him and battled for custody, her chances of success were small given the circumstances of our divorce and her temper issues. Fighting felt like a waste of time and resources, as she risked losing Sean and custody of our girls if she went forward with it. That's when my folks stepped in. Angela visited with them privately and asked them to let her keep in touch with our daughters. She was aware that if she signed away her rights, she would forfeit any visitation rights. However, my parents would retain those rights, which they intended to exploit. They deceived me for years by meeting Angela with our daughters behind my back. They justified it by claiming that Angela's plight struck a chord with them and that they couldn't keep a mother away from her children. However, stabbing their own son in the back had no ill effects on their conscience. Whenever I left the kids at their house, my parents would invite Angela to spend time with them. My children never told me they were seeing their mother because my parents bribed them with presents and chocolates to remain silent. When I asked how they spent their time at their grandparents' place, my girls told me they played games with their grandparents and a friend. I'd always imagined they meant my parents' true friends. Apparently, my parents had told my daughters to refer to their mother as a friend, in case I questioned. I couldn't believe my girls had lied to me, but I forgive them because they are only children and have been influenced. When I found out the truth from my parents, I confronted my daughters, asking if they had met their mother behind my back. They started crying and said they couldn't tell me because God would punish them if they did. Angela and my parents must have instilled this terror in their minds, which explains their secrecy. I also felt like a terrible father for never asking my parents' friends who they were spending time with. It may have been someone considerably more deadly than Angela, and I might never have known. But now I am putting an end to it. I've already filed for a restraining order against each of them. I have written proof, since my parents explained everything to me via email a few days after our dispute. They expected the email to help me comprehend Angela's desire to remain a mother, but it only confirmed that everyone involved had been lying to me. It's also hilarious that Angela signed away her parental rights and had to see our children in secret, as if it were a crime, simply because Sean did not want her to have any contact with her previous family. He was supposed to be her one true love, but now they're getting divorced. They even have a son together, but Sean, according to my parents, no longer wants to be associated with either of them. He has a job offer and will be going away in a few months, but Angela does not want to leave because their son has begun kindergarten locally. That's why they've been battling for so long, and it all came to a climax 3 months ago when Sean informed her he'd had enough and was taking the job. This was supposed to make me feel terrible for Angela, but instead I believe justice has been done. I spoke with my lawyer, and the restraining order has been filed. My girls and I had a serious chat about everything, and I informed them that they would not be seeing their grandparents or mother for the time being. They appear to be fine with it, but we are going to therapy to work through it since I know it has been difficult for them and will likely continue to be, but it is over now. Update 2. Hello folks. Thank you very much for your care and support here. I am grateful that so many people have sent nice comments and blessings to my daughters. My parents and Angela have been served with restraining orders and are scheduled to appear in court in a few days. I'm not sure how they feel about any of this because I've blocked them on every conceivable platform. I've also instructed my pals not to contact them if they attempt to do so. I've also enhanced security around my property and have been working from home for a few days. I contacted my girls' school administration and notified them of the problem. Initially, I did not want to send them to school for a few days, but I did not want their education to suffer as a result of Angela and my parents. Teachers have been ordered to keep an eye on them and not allow anyone other than me to pick them up after school. I'm doing everything I can to keep them from getting to us, because I know they'll try. So far, so good, and I'm hopeful that once we receive the restraining order, they will continue to stay away. Update 3. Hello, this will be a brief update, but we received the restraining order for the next 5 years. All 3 of them must keep their distance from me and my daughters unless they want to suffer severe consequences. I'm still enforcing all of the security measures I put in place since the last time I saw them. They appeared angry, and I don't want to jeopardize anything. My girls and I are attending regular family counseling sessions, and I believe we will make significant improvement in the coming months. We have already made significant progress. Honestly, all I want is for my girls to be happy. Please keep sending us your best wishes. We need them. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.